So Amy, tell us, like, how do you negotiate compensation? This information I think is newer, and we haven't seen a lot of this in the past. And how do we know what to ask for?
I think that it's helpful to have as much data as possible before entering a salary negotiation. So hopefully, when you get to a certain stage in your career, you've been gathering data points all along, talking to friends, talking to colleagues, potentially having informational interviews with jobs that you may not be interested in, but it's always helpful to just say, what is the compensation range? So I think before really doing an active job search, you should already have been gathering those points along the way, so that you have a sense of it. And the Barker-Gilmore survey is helpful. So that when you go in and you actually have your first discussion, which is really, I think, one of the most, if you're negotiating for a salary and you're considering joining a company, that is actually one of your first performance discussions, if you really think about it. So it's the beginning of how are you going to set yourself up with your new boss? What is that like? It's actually a pretty critical first conversation. It sets the tone. It sets you up. So what I find, putting my HR hat on and then having been in the C-suite and hired executives, and I think you and I have talked about this as well, it's very important to stay professional, data-focused, and treat it as a conversation. Where I find candidates can really mess up is by taking a combative approach or an us and them approach, which immediately sets the relationship off on a negative footing for any future discussion. And I've actually seen candidates sour the relationship and in one or two cases actually lose the job offer because they pushed too hard. There's negotiating well and advocating for yourself, and then there is not understanding the culture, the job band, the market pay, and appreciating the upsetting the apple cart. I've had some candidates who the company's been so desperate to hire them, they've allowed themselves to go over what they should have paid, and they come in on their back foot. They don't realize that they've over-negotiated. They're never probably going to be able to deliver what's now expected of them for that amount of money, and internally they're already causing resentment that they're unaware of, because inevitably some people know the salaries and some people who have been there that are much more tenured are, and so there's that sweet spot, and it requires some emotional intelligence to suss that out. But those are things that I would caution people about. Yes, you want to get paid fairly, but that's why knowing those data points before you even have the real discussion with the real employer is so important.